All right, let's bring back on the show former Major League pitcher, 2003 All-Star, Trenton Thunder manager Sean Chacon. Sean, thanks for joining us again, man.
My pleasure, man. Always happy to chat baseball, and you guys are a good couple guys, so I'm
Uh,
down.
we
Don't
we had
tell anyone that.
Yeah, right. Don't
Yeah.
don't tell anybody that. We keep it a secret. Yeah, we had so much fun last time when you were on, and it was kind of the start of the season. So we figure as your season comes to a close and as we come to the playoffs, let's bring you back on. Why don't you talk first about the season managing with the Thunder and how everything went for you?
Oh man, what a whirlwind. Um, when I forget how long ago it was we talked. Was it at the beginning of the first half or the
Yeah, it was
the
before the
whole thing, right?
draft. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like a tale of two different seasons altogether. The first half went so quick, with the guys getting drafted, you see the turnover. It was exciting to see a lot of those guys, which we knew were going to get drafted and signed. But the second half is where the real fun began. For me managing, that's where I feel like I started to actually learn, how to manage and stuff like that. So it was ups and downs, um, some real like interesting things that I had to deal with, like putting out small little fires that, don't really have anything to do with baseball. And then the baseball part was awesome, man. At that level, highs and lows, but overall you got to see a great group of guys, come together and evolve and develop a little bit, even just as professional, ball players. So uh it was a lot, man. It was definitely a lot of a challenge, but I loved it. I loved every second of it.
In your role as a manager in the league that the Trenton Thunder are in, you have the opportunity to impact the lives of these young people probably more than anybody. Not only because of their age, but because of the moment that they are in their lives. They are waiting to see if they're going to get drafted. These are not the young guys that are going to be the first round draft picks. This is do or die right now to make it to the next level. What is it? What's it like for you, and what have you learned by having this kind of influence on their lives? And what was the most important thing that you imparted to them?
Um, you're so right about like the stage of, I guess, their career that they're in. For a lot of them, we had some high school guys who like, top prospects who knew were going to get drafted, but for the most part, it was those guys in the transition of, I want to keep playing this game. I'm not this high prospect. Like, what can I do? So for me as a manager, even as a coach, I always approached this type of this league and these players with a mindset of really just kind of loving on them, dude, and just making sure they don't let this game, eat them up and tear them up and change the way they are as a person. So the takeaway for me, um, it started out as baseball. I'm going to help them get drafted. I want them to be the best ball player they can. But then it evolved to simply making sure that they left the Trent Thunder a better person, And so by the end of it, you keep getting these, things that come up that keep reminding me as a coach and manager, like this is bigger than baseball. These dudes are going to leave here being better men. And that was my responsibility to them fully.
You talk about loving on them. When you're working with young pitchers in the minors, some of them probably dealing with the same highs and lows that you went through as a pitcher. Here in Philly, we had Andrew Painter, who the expectations were high that he was going to join the major league rotation right after the All-Star break. That didn't happen, and he's had some lows along with some of the highs in the minors. How do you connect with players like that and guide them through it, like what the Phillies are trying to do here with their young prospect?
Well, you just try to get them to understand that it's a process. That was one of the big, things, and it's kind of cliche when you hear it. Athletes say the word process, but with baseball, I don't think there's another, sport or arena that it, applies more accurately because it's such a game of it's a patient, it's a long play game where patience, perseverance is important. So for me, it was just understanding and trying to feel them out, seeing how they're, taking this whole experience. But the first thing you notice is the info they're taking in around them, right? You're going to be this, you should be drafted this, you should get this kind of money. And then with social media at their fingertips, they get to see live comparison to everybody across the world as far as baseball goes. So all this info coming at them, and then them having to understand where they fit in and having to learn just basically who they are as a player. You know what I mean? So a lot of them come into this draft league thinking that, oh, I gotta throw 100 miles an hour, or I gotta hit, bombs, and they really don't understand who they are. So I think getting them to trust you first of all, which is for I think this generation of players, it's by sitting back, being quiet, letting them come to you. And then once you do that, just kind of breaking them down and seeing, okay, here's, you know, who I think you are. Who do you think you are? And then the questions start coming. Well, what did you feel like when you got drafted, or when you failed, or whatever it was? These questions come and you just try to relate to them. So I think the part of loving on them just becomes you just share your experience. And in my uh, experience, it's all the failures that they kind of grasp onto and are like, want to see how you react.
Youth and patience aren't two words that are often used together. Um, and we have the Painter situation, but we also have a high prospect in Aiden Miller, who started off in spring training. This kid's going to jump from Double A to the majors, and it took him a while to adjust to Double A pitching, and he's now only just been promoted the other day to Triple A. People want him up to here now in the middle of a playoff race. How important is it, more than any other sport, for players to go through the process? And what, as somebody who's went through it like you have, how important is it to not skip stages?
I think it's super important simply because at each stage you learn a different aspect of the game and yourself. Um, Being able to step up in the playoffs and be clutch, I don't think just happens through um, success single A and then jumping to double A or triple A and then get to the big leagues. The ability to make it to the big leagues, it kind of disappears once you get to the playoffs, and everybody knows that. Like, you see guys uh, that'll fail in the playoffs and their careers are done. So I think being able to go through the struggles, and not only struggles with like performance, but also the frustration of not being called up, or you see another guy get called up, and you just have to take this patient, slow road. But it teaches you that you have to go through the grind, and then no moment becomes too big. And I think that's where you see the difference in guys that perform in the playoffs and don't.
To make them appreciate it more too when they, their friend gets called up, everybody says they should be there and they're not, and they're still grinding.
That's a given too. And it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are or what level you're at. There's always somebody in your ear saying, oh, dude, that should be you, or that's going to be you. And there's this, this gasoline that gets thrown on, the already like lit fire, and it just becomes noise. So again, if you can quiet the noise around you, you know who you are, you buy into the whole development part of baseball, and then you just prepare for your opportunity. It comes down to being prepared, period.
You've talked about, as you go through this process, of loving on these guys as a manager, but there are times where that doesn't work. We've spent a lot of time with managers and players. Pat Borders is, I don't know if you've ever run across him.
Oh, I
He's
know of him.
he,
I've never.
he's not a loving on them kind of guy, but
Right.
he had, we won't name him, but he had a first round pick who he had to deal with at short season A when that existed, and that particular player didn't like talking to anybody, didn't like dealing with the media, and it has haunted him. And you kind of wonder if he realizes how much it's haunted him as he's made it to the major leagues and had struggles. How important is it to help them, and can you help a lot of them when they take the position early in their lives that I'm bigger than the game, um, and I don't have to respect the people on the way up?
I don't I don't think that's a job for any person, manager, GM. I mean, through my own experience, you learn that through life. And unfortunately, like some people, some players, they won't learn that till late in their career. Oh, maybe if I would have handled that different or listened to that manager or, got over myself, my career might have been different. So, you beat your head against the wall trying to get some of these kids to hear you. And it is love, but coming from you, they don't necessarily receive it the same way. Um, so I would just say that, overall, like if a guy needs to learn a lesson the hard way, I mean, that's like parenting, you're like, you want to protect your kids and not let them hurt themselves. But sometimes the best way for them to learn is to touch that, hot fire and get burned. So,
So some of these kids, young adults, got drafted under your tutelage. What is that like?
I mean, that's what the league's about. So it makes you feel real good. There's a lot of pride that like, you were a part of it and just being a part of their journey, right? So for me, like I have guys like Logan Dawson who, got drafted by the Phillies. He's I think 19-year-old shortstop. Like he communicates with me, Ron Parrott, and the hitting coach regularly. He just got called up to what is it, the Threshers, I think, single A, and immediately like, you know, yo, Shaq, I'm up here, I'm this and that. And he always references the season he had in Trenton and the struggle. And, he always goes back to that. Man, this summer did so much for me. So guys like that, you look at and you're like, that really makes you proud because not only were they like Miguel Sime, who another stud who was always going to be drafted, I think, but we were lucky enough to get him on our squad and pitch a couple games. Like he was an automatic, but you see a high school shortstop who I think struck out like his first 10 times in our league overmatched, never saw a pitch over 85 in high school and was facing lefties throwing 95. For him to embrace that struggle and still go out and play defense the way he did and still be like so eager and wanting this thing, like you look at that and those are the ones that keep you going back.
We talk all the time on this show about defined roles and the importance of somebody knowing their role and responsibility on a team. This Phillies bullpen was flailing earlier in the season. They brought in Johan Duran, and all of a sudden, everybody's got their role. He's the closer. Everybody has the innings before that, and you've seen the bullpen settle. You pitched both as a starter and a reliever in the majors. How did you adjust mentally and physically to those roles, and why is it so important for a player to know when it's going to be their time?
Um, Fortunately for me, I came out as a starter. So developing that whole thing was really, it's easy, right? You're on a schedule, it's 5 days. You planned everything. The challenge became when I moved to closer in 2004 with the Rockies. And I'll be honest, that whole struggle that I had was for not knowing how to prepare, and there's no bigger thrill, I don't think, than being a closer and hearing the phone ring and your heart rate jumps and you're like, oh, is it time? I don't know. So I think having managed the bullpen this summer and watching the results come out of it and hearing response from guys like sometimes freaking out about only having 3 outs to warm up you know, or haven't pitched in 2 days, or am I going to pitch today? Am I going to pitch today? Am I hot today? You start to realize, okay, I got to figure out how to communicate with these dudes so they have a little bit better understanding of when. And you do see the results. You do, I can't define it, but there's something to knowing what your role is and then being able to develop routine and preparation.
How much fun would it be? You became a closer. How much fun would it be today to be able to have the entrance that you see people like Johan Duran have?
I mean, I feel like I tell everybody all the time, I missed this. I should have played in this generation, or I would have wanted to, because I love that stuff. And I think it plays so much into, um, you know, just the battle of it. Even the hitters waiting and watching this closer come in and this whole, scene going on. I feel like that would pump me up as a hitter too. Um, but I think it's dope, man. I think it's awesome. You better go out
Well,
and get it done, though. That's for sure.
what would your walk in music have been? And one other thing, you mentioned that like the hitters are watching it. Does this actually intimidate hitters at times?
I think it can, but I also think just the buildup of it. So we tell pitchers, hitters in big moments, like calm down, slow the heart rate, like don't let everything speed up. So I think part of the gameplay there is, some hitters will buy into that and they'll be like, they'll get just as hype, right? And for some pitchers, it's too much for. So I think it's all just, part of the gameplay. I would have come out to probably something, by Jay-Z, like what I did in New York, public service announcement, which I kind of took from Jeter the year before.
Mm.
But honestly, like a lot of guys, especially a closer, that's your identity, I remember watching um what can I think of his name? Dodgers closer set the record. Well, I'm stumbling here. 2003, 80 some in a row, 83 saves in a row. Glasses, Canadian. Help me out here, guys.
Why am I not getting this?
I'm blanking. Uh Canadian. He
Gagne,
saved
Eric Gagne.
Eric Gagne. Okay. I watched Hoffman come in, right? That was my era. And then obviously Mariano Rivera. Um, but watching the what happened with Gagne back in 2003, like that was unheard of. His whole entrance in LA, like it was awesome. And I always thought like he was like a superhero and this is his theme music and he's coming out and he just lived up to it all. So um, I think it's great, man.
I want to talk injuries for a second. We've seen this season Zach Wheeler go down with a blood clot, and at the high of his pitching, you're somebody who right after you're selected to the All Star game, first half of the season, you're then out with an injury, and your mentality was about being healthy and pitching again, but not coming back to have it happen again. Can you talk about the challenges that a player goes through when you have something like that, and also what the impact was on your teammates and you as well?
Well, I think first and foremost, when you're going good, you're not thinking about anything physical. Everything's focused on your routine and then, preparation and performing. Once you get hurt and then you come back, mentally, you can't help but, be a little bit insecure about it happening again. When you're talking about pro sports and making money and your team relying on you to win and you're a big part of this team, it just adds even more stress. I always hated having to go on rehab assignments. Once you got hurt or did whatever, you'd have to go a rehab assignment, then turn into like, 4 weeks in the minor leagues. But at the same time, you understand because, they can't, you can't judge based on, okay, time. This is, you'll be healthy in this time, then go out and perform at the level that we do and not think about injury. I mean, it's just, especially a pitcher. I mean, when you start talking about arm injury, I mean, that's got to be the most sensitive subject when it comes to like how long is too long or not enough.
How do you, as a player, decide? So Zach Wheeler's now dealing with this. He's finished for the season, unfortunately. How do you make the decision as a player? Do I go in the dugout? Do I stay out of the dugout? Where is my place on this team? Because you're used to being there with these guys every day, working out with them, and all of a sudden, we've talked to Doug Glanville a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, it's a very difficult thing because even if you want to be in the dugout, if you're going to do work, you have to do it before the other player so you don't get in the way. What do you do in those situations? And how do you make the decision of where you belong?
You try not to bother people, I guess. You just become this annoying little, fly that's bored. You want to be in the game, but you know, I think the hard part is understanding that if you are that player, right? Let's say you are this emotional leader on the team, and you are that player. Then I think it's easy for you to come and be like, you know what, I'm gonna be here. I'm not gonna like make things weird, and it doesn't look like you're trying too hard to be relevant, right? Um, and then there's other players who I think you just need to probably just stay away. I mean, just for all, especially pitchers, I think we get, when a pitcher's hurt and you're just sitting there, I feel like the rest of the position players are like, dude, go to the bullpen or shouldn't you be in the training room or something like that? Um, but when it comes to like being on a winning team, like Wheeler, you keep referencing, I think he's been such a big part of that team and the organization and what they're doing and what they're trying to do. I have no doubt that, he's one of those guys that'll be there and be around for whatever he can.
All right, let's talk playoff baseball because as a fan, I get excited when there's bunting around the field. Nothing says it's that time of year, like seeing bunting and seeing the logo for the postseason on the field. You pitched in Yankee Stadium during some high pressure moments. You pitched in the playoffs. Talk about what October baseball is like for the fan who just watches all season and they're like, ah, it's another game.
It's like Christmas, man. I mean, it really is. The weather changes, that, it gets brisk. I get goosebumps because I mean, having only pitched in the playoffs, with the Yankees, I feel like that was the one place to do it if you're going to do it, right? And just
Yeah, not bad.
not bad, right? So that environment, and I go to the Dodgers games, like all the playoff games here, and I always tell my wife when we go, I'm like, I would love to be back in this scenario again, just to like breathe the air, the vibe, like everything. So it's like Christmas when it comes, man. Honestly, like I think it's almost like, NBA when I don't watch a game until like the last 5, 10 minutes before it gets real. When October baseball hits, that's when it gets so good. It's so exciting. The buildup around it, the way they market it, like you said, the emblems on the field, the commercials, and you just get to anticipate who's going to be the next star this, of October, the next breakout, people, or what's going to happen this year. So it's exciting, man.
Is that what you want next? Is the long term plan for you? Is that you get to be back there coaching in the major leagues,
A
soaking
thousand.
in October?
That's a doubt. That's 100%. And I tell everybody, you put it out in the universe, right? But I want to win a world championship. And however, that comes, if I can be on the field as a coach, that would be ultimate. But I tell everybody, I'll be a bullpen coach. I'll be the mascot coach, whatever it takes, right? Just, I'm serious because
The
there's so many.
mascots we can hook you up with.
Well, but there you go. There's so many pieces, to these things that I'm like, every time we go, I talk about it. I'm like, this is it for me. I wish I would have had that type of drive and vision when I was playing because again, you realize later, like this is what it's all about, man. Like the good season, the all-star, like all that stuff, cool, great. But to be able to play or just be in that environment on that field and be part of something in October that gets it done, that plays the last game of the season, that's the ultimate.
What would you think about playing with the way that they use arms in these playoffs? Mix and match, in for a pitch, in for
I mean, it's too much, but you see what's at stake and you see the level of talent that they have at their disposal. I mean, it's hard not to be like, oh, let me take this dude who throws 100 and spins it at this, it's got this sweeper, wipe away slider, whatever it is, and you have all these analytics that play into it. It'd be hard not to, you know what I mean? So, um, the human aspect of it, right? The feel, the gut, like watching managers make those changes or make those decisions. That's also what the playoff baseball is all about.
We're a little worried about asking this question, but you're clearly a Dodgers fan, and we're in Philadelphia. Where do you see this, at least the National League playoffs, going?
Oh man, I mean, I don't, I honestly don't feel good about the Dodgers this season, and especially coming off a World Series championship. But I think the pitching and that it's going to be pitching and defense is what always gets it done. The Padres look really good, which I don't like admitting that as a Dodger fan, but uh, I just don't see him winning it. And I really do. And I'm not saying this just to say it, but I feel like it's a Phillies year. What, these guys on offense are doing, Schwarber, just the city in itself, it just always feels like they're on the cusp of doing it. And I'm a grinder, dude. So, if there was my third favorite team, it'd definitely be Phillies.
No offense. I hope you're wrong about the defense because I watch some of these games and text Jeff, my 5 and 8 year old are playing double A and triple A ball, and I see the same mistakes on their field that I do on the major league field. So I hope you're not right about the defense because that's one of our concerns is some of the fundamental mistakes that this team can make in big spots. And, how much more important and glaring do those mistakes that you can overcome in the season become in the playoffs?
Well, they're everything. It's literally pitch by pitch, out by out. And you saw last season with the Yankees. I mean, the drop fly ball, Cole not covering first base, and as a pitching background guy, like that stands out more than anything. You're like, okay, the staff, everybody has to make sure that they're taking care of the little details, right? The big moments will be there, the walk-off homer, the 3 run, whatever it is, they will be there and they'll come naturally. But the little details, covering the base, taking the extra base, backing up the throw, um, you know, preventing the team from getting the extra base, that's playoff baseball, and that's what's highlighted. So I think, going into it, that just has to be the understanding for every team. All right, fellas, little details, focus on them because that's what's going to, help us win or lose.
The thing about playoff baseball and just baseball in general is every single pitch matters. Like when the count is 2-2, you don't waste a pitch. Every pitch that you throw matters. And in Philadelphia, we've been lucky enough to see somebody and talk to somebody like Jamie Moyer, who used
Hmm.
to like yell at the fielders to like use two hands if there was a pop up.
Hmm.
What is it like to know? I mean, your teammates, they make mistakes and you have to accept them. But when you have everything on every pitch, what is it like to know that once that ball goes in the air, it's
You got no
completely out of your control, and you may have somebody behind you that you just know it may just bounce out of that glove.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Jamie Moyer. Got my first big league hit off of him back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, uh, I
What
don't
was it?
listen.
Do you remember? Was it
It
a
was just a fastball up the
yeah?
middle. I mean, it was like,
With as long
uh,
as he pitched, I'm guessing a lot of people can say they got their first hit off.
well, I think that's what they wrote on the baseball when I got it back was like, oh, sweet, dude. Jamie Moyer, 83, 85, way to go. Something like that. But either way,
It
um,
counts.
it counts, you're darn right. So being a starter and being a closer, right? As a starter, and this is just to reference what you're asking, but I'll get to that point. You pitch the whole game, a reliever comes in and they blow it for you, right? And you're like, ah, son of a gut, like, closer, blah, blah, reliever. And then when I became a closer and I did it, I'm like, oh man, this feels terrible, right? So to your question, I think as a pitcher, you know when your defense is good or bad. You know that. And it comes out in the way you pitch. So you see guys nibbling, they're thinking like, I need to strike out guys. I need to make the perfect pitch because my defense is weak. Whereas you see guys who know they have good D, I mean, they're just attacking the zone. And a lot of the times you see the success there. But in the playoffs, I mean, you know, I think it's impossible not to hold your breath, when a ball goes up or a ball's hit in a crucial situation, uh, and not just, think for a second like, oh, what could happen? That's just the way it goes. But I feel like in the same aspect, there's position players are like, dude, is this pitcher going to choke? Like, you cringe at the thought of like, oh no, here we go again. So, but all in all, like you're a professional, man. Like you have to trust everybody. And at the end of the day, I mean, shoot, you can't reference the errors behind you, right? Nobody cares about that when it comes to contract time, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you a question you didn't expect to be asked. I don't think you get an All-Star game nod in 2003. The 11 wins in the All-Star game nod, the most important, or the home run you hit that year?
Oh, come on. You already said it. The home run in Arizona against John Patterson. Listen, I get asked that question and I'm like, there's no better feeling. I promise you. than hitting a home run, dude. You don't feel the ball hit the barrel. Um, and so yeah, I mean, 11 wins is it was for me, it was pointless. You know, I didn't pitch well the second half. The All-Star gig was cool, but I didn't get a pitch in that because I was hurt. Um, and honestly, that was the year I think Roy Halladay was the American League like starter of the All-Star game, rest in peace. And I just remember being disappointed because I thought I had a shot of two Colorado boys starting an All-Star game against each other, which would have been dope. But yeah, man, the dinger, dude. I got one in the column. Got a
There you go.
big league batting average and everything. So
It's always a one.
there's always a one, dude.
Did you know it when it went off the bat? Did you know it?
I did because I didn't feel it. Like it was so pure and I didn't run like I knew it. You know, there was just this happy, like I'm cheesing around the bases. But honestly, like that feeling, I'm like, no wonder like hitters sit and watch when they hit balls, 470 feet. It's awesome.
All right, one more for me. Uh, Ed Wade went in the Phillies Wall of Fame this year. You obviously have a little bit of a history with him in the past. I hear that some of your people at the Trenton Thunder had a little fun with you about whether or not you would be attending this ceremony. Why don't you talk to us about what went on there and then how much fun they had with you over it?
They so being so close to Philly and then knowing me and the way I've taken it all, like not with a grain of salt, like it was a big thing, but now understanding, be accountable to what it was, they know they can play with me. So, one of our clubhouse managers, like he wears Houston Astros gear on purpose, and he'll walk, and he's the visiting clubhouse guy. So really there's not too much interaction, but he'll make sure to make a point of walk over in Astros hat, shirt, shorts, full gear and just see how I react. So he gives me a hard time there. And then this past summer, when they mentioned the Wall of Fame game or whatever, that was one of his questions. He walks in, "Hey, you going to the game tonight? Your buddy's getting inducted into the Wall of Fame." And my only response was, "For what?" So, uh, and then he ended up laughing too. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand." So, um, yeah, man. It's funny how life works though, because I'm good friends with Jeff Manto, who was the manager here in Trenton, the previous 3 years I was
Hmm?
pitching coach under. And another funny story is I was going to his college graduation party this summer, uh, and the dates got screwed up, and he comes in and tells me later, he's like, "Hey man, I gotta be, just honest and upfront with you. Ed Wade showed up to my graduation party. You guys were playing." And he's like, "I'm praying to God there's not a rain out because I know if there's a rain out that you're coming." And he's like, "And I don't know what to do." And I'm like, "Well, thanks for the heads up. I'm wondering what would have happened."
Oh, that's funny. It has been a learning experience for you though, and is it something that you've incorporated into as you now are a leader of men yourself? You had to go through something to get through it.
Yeah. And honestly, you face, I don't want to say your demons, but like as you evolve and get older, this is what I noticed this summer. The issues that I had, I think I was able to reflect and be like, "Oh, was I like that as a player to a manager, or was I like that as a coach to a manager?" And honestly, when you really look at yourself, you're like, "Okay, I understand the message." So there were times that I had to deal with these dudes like men, and where they, were like, for lack of better phrase, like, they lacked respect and understood, you know, the environment, who they were talking to, so to speak. So immediately I thought the way that I handled those situations was a direct result of, what happened to me in the past. And I was able to reference that quickly, process it, and be like, "Okay, I get it." So now I'm having to face the way I was as a player and learn, obviously be accountable, but also learn like, you know, that's part of the whole life lesson. That's why baseball and life are so crazy parallel, that every time something comes up, I'm immediately looking back in my past and being like, what am I supposed to learn from this? So that's
think that's
definitely one of them.
I think that's part of why we enjoy chopping it up with you so much because it's not just about talking about baseball on the field for you. You've got a different perspective from your own journey that now you're bringing to other players. So for us, we can't wait to keep watching your journey. And we hope you get to achieve that dream of being there managing in the playoffs. And we can't wait to talk to you as it keeps going. So thanks for always giving us a little time to break it down.
Absolutely, man. That's my the only thing you can't compare to any individual, right, is your experience in life. So our responsibility to people that are around us is to share that perspective, and you can't ever be wrong. So I appreciate you guys having me too. I'm always down to chat.
Well, we'll definitely follow you again. Don't worry. We'll find you.
I know.
Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.